I'm blocking you for a week so you'll learn to appreciate me. Those were the words that changed everything. My wife Fiona stood in our Seattle penthouse doorway, designer suitcase in hand, delivering what she thought was the ultimate punishment. Her perfectly contoured face wore that smug expression I'd grown to despise. The same look she gave her Instagram followers when dispensing wellness advice she'd stolen from actual therapists. "Take a month," I replied, not looking up from my laptop. The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. I could feel her waiting for me to beg, to grovel, to play the desperate husband role she'd scripted in her head. Instead, I kept coding, fingers dancing across the keyboard with deliberate calm. "Fine," she snapped. "Maybe I will." The door slammed with enough force to rattle our overpriced modern art. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Seattle's skyline glittered in the evening light, indifferent to the domestic drama playing out 40 floors above the city. My name is Lucian Dre, and I'm apparently a slow learner. It took me 3 years of marriage to realize that my wife was a master manipulator who'd turned gaslighting into an art form. If emotional abuse was an Olympic sport, Fiona would have won gold and already blocked the silver medalist on social media. I saved my work, a new app for a local coffee chain, and leaned back in my chair. The apartment felt different without Fiona's presence, like someone had finally turned off a television that had been blaring in the background for years. Peaceful, quiet, almost pleasant. My phone buzzed. A text from Leo, my best friend, and the only person who'd consistently seen through Fiona's act. "Heard the princess stormed out. You okay?" I typed back. "Never better. Want to grab a drink?" Already heading over with whiskey and bad decisions. Leo Martinez owned a dive bar in Capitol Hill called The Honest Mistake. He was the kind of friend who'd help you bury a body, then spend the next 20 years making jokes about your poor shovel technique. More importantly, he was one of the few people who remembered what I was like before Fiona systematically isolated me from everyone who cared about me. 20 minutes later, Leo knocked on my door carrying a bottle of Jameson and wearing his signature grin, the one that usually preceded either brilliant advice or spectacular trouble. "So," he said, settling into the leather couch Fiona had insisted we buy because it photographed well for her lifestyle posts. "Want to tell me what finally broke the camel's back?" I poured 2 generous glasses and handed him one. "She's been planning this for weeks. The blocking thing, I mean. I overheard her on the phone with Nadia yesterday, talking about how she needed to train me better and how a week of silence would make me more grateful." Jesus. And you didn't say anything? I was curious to see how far she'd take it. I took a sip of whiskey, savoring the burn. "Turns out, pretty far." Leo studied me with the intensity of a bartender who'd heard every sob story in the book. "You're different. Calmer. Usually when you two fight, you look like a man who's been hit by a truck driven by his own mistakes." He wasn't wrong. For months, maybe years, I'd been walking on eggshells, constantly analyzing Fiona's moods, trying to predict her next emotional landmine. The relief of not having to do that anymore was intoxicating. "I think I'm done, Leo." Done? Or just done until she comes back with crocodile tears and promises to change? Done. My phone lit up with notifications. Fiona had posted a cryptic Instagram story, a photo of herself looking pensively out a car window with the caption, "Sometimes you have to create distance to find clarity." Self-love. Boundaries. Growth. Leo peered over my shoulder and snorted. "She's really committed to this narrative, isn't she? Poor, misunderstood influencer, forced to educate her ungrateful husband." "Check this out," I said, opening my laptop. "I've been keeping track." I showed him a spreadsheet I'd been maintaining for the past month, a detailed log of Fiona's inconsistencies, lies, and manipulations. Dates, times, screenshots of her contradictory social media posts, records of her mysterious expenses, and notes about her increasingly frequent girls' nights that seemed to involve a suspicious amount of designer shopping and spa visits. Holy shit, Lucian. You've been building a case. I'm a developer. I debug problems for a living. Turns out my marriage was just another system that needed troubleshooting. Leo scrolled through the evidence, his expression growing more serious. This is some next-level gaslighting. Look at this. She posted about having a quiet night in with my husband, the same day you were working late, and she was at that charity gala with her friends. That's not even the best part. I clicked to another tab. I found out about Elliot Shaw last week. Leo's head snapped up. The gym guy? The one who looks like he fell off the cover of a protein powder container? That's him. Nadia let it slip during one of their phone calls. Apparently, Fiona's been seeing him for at least 2 months. The blocking thing? It's not punishment, it's permission. She wants a guilt-free week to play house with her muscle-bound side piece. And you're just okay with this? I finished my whiskey and poured another. I'm better than okay. I'm grateful. She just handed me the perfect opportunity. For what? I smiled, and Leo actually leaned back a little. To disappear her entire life. Okay, that sounds ominous. Please tell me you're not planning anything that requires alibis or plastic sheeting. Nothing illegal, nothing violent. But Fiona's about to learn that there's a difference between blocking someone and being blocked out of your own existence. Leo raised his glass. I don't know what you're planning, but I'm here for it. That woman has spent 3 years making you miserable. Time for some karmic justice. We drank to that, and I began to explain my plan. The next morning, I called in sick to work, the first time I'd used a personal day for myself in over 2 years. Fiona had trained me to save all my time off for her various crises and social obligations. The irony wasn't lost on me that my first act of rebellion was taking a mental health day. I started with coffee and reconnaissance. Fiona's social media presence was her lifeline, and she'd never been particularly careful about her privacy settings. Her Instagram story showed her having breakfast at the Four Seasons with Nadia, both of them looking like they were planning either a wedding or a murder. The caption read, "Grateful for friends who support your growth journey. Sometimes the people closest to us need the most space to evolve." Authenticity, friendship, trust, the process. I screenshot it for my files. Fiona's passive-aggressive social media posts were like breadcrumbs leading to her real agenda. My phone rang. Raj Patel, one of my developers, was calling about a client meeting. Hey Raj, can you handle the Morrison presentation today? Something came up. Sure, no problem. Actually, funny story. I saw your wife yesterday at that new gym downtown. She was with some huge guy. Looked pretty cozy. Thought you should know. Raj was a good kid, fresh out of college and still naive enough to believe that telling a man his wife was cheating was the right thing to do. He had no idea he'd just handed me another piece of evidence. Thanks for the heads up. What time was this? Around 2. I was grabbing lunch next door. They were in the window, and she was laughing at something he said. Seemed pretty friendly. 2 p.m. The same time Fiona had texted me about being stuck in a boring influencer meeting and how much she missed me. I added it to my spreadsheet. After hanging up with Raj, I made my second call of the day. Martinez Moving Company. This is Steve. Hi, I need to schedule an emergency move for today. Full apartment. Everything needs to be out by 5 p.m. Today? That's pretty short notice. It'll cost extra. Money's not an issue. I'll pay double your usual rate. All right, we can make it work. What's the address? I gave him the details and hung up. Step 1 was in motion. Step 2 required a trip to public storage. The facility on Capitol Hill was a concrete maze of orange doors and broken dreams, the kind of place where people stored the remnants of failed relationships and abandoned hobbies. I rented a climate-controlled unit, the largest they had available. Marcy, the storage manager, was a chatty woman in her 40s who clearly didn't get enough human interaction during her shifts. Big move? She asked, processing my paperwork. You could say that. My wife is going through a phase where she needs space to find herself. I'm just helping her along. Oh, honey, I see that all the time. Sometimes people don't know what they want until they don't have it anymore. You're probably doing her a favor. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Marcy handed me the keys and a business card. If you need boxes or packing supplies, we sell them up front. And honey, if she comes looking for her stuff, she'll need the unit number and the access code. I can't give out information without both. I'll make sure she has everything she needs, I said, pocketing the keys. By noon, the movers had arrived at my apartment. 3 guys who looked like they could relocate a small building if properly motivated. I'd prepared a detailed inventory of everything that belonged to Fiona. Clothes, shoes, beauty products, workout equipment, her ridiculous collection of crystals and essential oils, the expensive camera equipment she used for her content creation, even her special organic tea that cost more per pound than decent coffee. Everything on this list goes, I told the crew chief. Nothing else. And guys, this needs to be done perfectly. No damage, no missing items. I want her stuff treated better than she's treated me. They worked with professional efficiency, wrapping and boxing Fiona's entire material existence. Her walk-in closet alone filled 23 boxes. Her bathroom products required their own dedicated containers. Watching her life disappear into cardboard and bubble wrap was oddly therapeutic. I kept only the items we'd bought together: furniture, art, kitchen appliances. Everything that was purely hers vanished into the moving truck like it had never existed. The final touch was a folding chair from my office, the cheap metal kind you'd find at a church basement meeting. I placed it in the center of our bedroom, along with an envelope containing the storage unit information and a note written in my neatest handwriting. Fiona, you said you needed space to find yourself. I've given you all the space you could possibly need. Your belongings are safe and waiting for you at the address below. The access code is blocked forever. I hope this week of freedom helps you discover exactly who you are without me. Lucian. I also left a single red rose on the chair because Fiona had always been a sucker for dramatic gestures. By 4 p.m., the apartment looked like a completely different place. Cleaner, more spacious. The absence of Fiona's clutter revealed how much of our shared space had been devoted to maintaining her image and feeding her endless need for new things. I ordered Thai food and ate dinner on the couch, watching the sunset paint Seattle's skyline in shades of gold and orange. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe properly. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You think you're clever, but you have no idea what you're messing with. This won't end the way you think it will. N. Nadia. Fiona's best friend, enabler, and partner in manipulation. She must have heard about my little redecorating project. I typed back, looking forward to finding out. Tell Fiona her chair is waiting. Then I blocked the number. Around 9 p.m., I decided to take a drive. Not to check up on Fiona. I already knew where she was. Raj's tip about the gym had given me Elliot Shaw's location, and a quick Google search had provided his address, business information, and enough social media content to write his unauthorized biography. Elliot owned a boutique fitness studio called Peak Performance in Belltown, the kind of place where personal training sessions cost more than most people's car payments. His Instagram was a masterpiece of masculine insecurity: shirtless workout videos, motivational quotes over sunset photos, and carefully staged shots of his expensive car, expensive watch, and expensive protein smoothies. He was exactly the kind of man Fiona would choose for an affair. All surface, no substance, with enough muscles to make her feel desired and enough narcissism to match her own. I parked across the street from his gym and waited. Sure enough, around 10 p.m., Fiona's white Mercedes pulled into the lot. She emerged wearing workout clothes that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, her hair perfect, despite allegedly coming from an intense training session. Elliot met her at the door, and even from a distance, I could see the way they moved around each other. Familiar, intimate, comfortable in a way that only came from repetition. They talked for a few minutes. Then Elliot walked her to her car. He leaned through the driver's window for what looked like a kiss goodbye, then stepped back as she drove away. I followed at a safe distance, curious about where my wife was spending her week of self-discovery. She led me to the Fairmont Olympic Hotel downtown, one of Seattle's most expensive establishments. She handed her keys to the valet like she belonged there. So that's how she was playing it. Not just an affair, but a full fantasy life. Fiona was treating her week away like a vacation from reality, staying at a luxury hotel while she figured out how to maximize the drama of her eventual return. I drove home with a smile on my face. Tomorrow, Fiona would discover that reality had some surprises of its own. I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Fiona had returned to the apartment. The messages started calm, almost confused. "Lucian, where are my things?" "This isn't funny. Call me back right now." Then they escalated. "What did you do with my stuff? This is insane, even for you. I'm calling the police." The final message, sent at 2:47 a.m., was just, "You're going to regret this." I made coffee and scrolled through the rest of my notifications. Fiona had posted an Instagram story at 1:15 a.m., a shaky video of our empty bedroom with dramatic text overlay. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Shocked and heartbroken. Betrayal, toxic behavior, sure healing. The comments were already pouring in from her followers. "OMG, what happened? Are you okay, babe? Men are trash. Send me his address, I'll fight him." I screenshot the whole thing for my files, then checked the storage unit's security cameras through their mobile app. Marcy had mentioned they had 24-hour surveillance, and I'd paid extra for access to the footage. There it was, Fiona arriving at 11:30 p.m. in her Mercedes, still wearing her hotel workout clothes. She'd spent 20 minutes trying different combinations on the keypad before finally entering blocked forever. The camera showed her face when the door rolled up, pure rage mixed with disbelief. She'd loaded some of her clothes into her car but left most of her belongings behind. The storage unit looked like a tornado had hit it. Fiona had never been good at controlling her temper when things didn't go according to her script. My phone rang. Leo. "Dude, have you seen her Instagram? She's having a complete meltdown." I saw it, pretty dramatic, even for her. The comments are insane. Her followers are ready to form a lynch mob. "What's your next move?" "I'm going to work, like a normal person on a normal Tuesday." "You're just going to work? While your wife is having a public breakdown and calling you abusive on social media?" "Leo, the beautiful thing about telling the truth is that you don't have to remember your story. Everything I did was legal, documented, and reasonable. Fiona asked for space. I gave her space. If she's unhappy with the terms, she can come home and we can discuss it like adults." "And if she doesn't want to discuss it like adults?" "Then she'll keep digging her own grave on social media while I document everything for my lawyer." I wasn't bluffing about the lawyer. I'd already scheduled a consultation with Patricia Chen, one of Seattle's best divorce attorneys. The appointment was for Thursday afternoon. Work was a welcome distraction. The coffee shop app was coming together nicely, and losing myself in clean code was therapeutic after months of trying to debug my marriage. Around lunchtime, Raj knocked on my office door. "Hey, boss, there's a woman here to see you. Says she's your wife's friend. She seems intense." Nadia. I'd been expecting this. She was waiting in our small conference room, perfectly dressed and radiating the kind of controlled fury that came from years of getting her way through intimidation. Nadia worked in PR for lifestyle brands, which meant she was professionally skilled at making people believe whatever narrative served her clients' interests. "Lucian." She didn't stand up or offer to shake hands. "We need to talk." "About what?" "About the fact that you've lost your mind. Fiona is devastated. She's been crying for hours." I sat down across from her and pulled out my phone. Funny, because her Instagram story from this morning shows her getting a massage at a spa. She looked pretty relaxed for someone who's been crying for hours. Nadia's composure cracked slightly. Social media isn't real life. Neither is your friend's marriage, apparently. Look, I don't know what you think you know, but I know about Elliot Shaw. I know about the hotel. I know about the 2 months of lies, manipulation, and gaslighting. I know that Fiona planned this whole blocking thing as an excuse to spend a week playing house with her boyfriend while making me feel guilty for existing. You're paranoid. I opened my laptop and turned it toward her. Am I? The spreadsheet was comprehensive. Dates, times, locations, screenshots, receipts. 2 months of evidence laid out in neat, color-coded rows. Nadia's face went pale as she scrolled through it. You've been stalking her. I've been paying attention. There's a difference. This is sick, Lucian. Obsessive. What's sick is convincing someone they're crazy while you help their spouse cheat on them. What's obsessive is documenting every moment of your life for social media validation while lying about the most basic facts of your existence. Nadia closed the laptop. Fine. You want to play hardball? Fiona has dirt on you too. The drinking, the mood swings, the way you've been controlling her finances. The drinking? I laughed. You mean the glass of wine I have with dinner? The mood swings? You mean my reactions to being systematically lied to and manipulated and controlling her finances? Nadia, I gave Fiona access to everything. She spent $40,000 last month on God knows what, and I never said a word. She's an influencer. That's business investment. Then she can write it off on her taxes, along with the hotel room she's been charging to our joint credit card. Nadia stood up. You're making a mistake. Fiona has a platform, followers, influence. She can destroy your reputation with a single post. Let her try. I have something she doesn't. What's that? The truth. After Nadia left, I called Leo. How do you feel about attending a public event tonight? Depends. Are we talking about a nice dinner or a felony? Fiona's hosting an Instagram live session at 8 p.m. Healing from betrayal, a wellness journey. She's doing it from the hotel bar. And you want to crash it? I want to observe it, with witnesses. I'm in. But Lucian? Maybe it's time to think about an exit strategy. This is getting pretty intense. He was right. Things were escalating quickly, and I needed to be smart about my next moves. But I wasn't ready to back down. Not when Fiona was doubling down on her victim narrative while continuing to lie to everyone who would listen. The hotel bar was crowded when Leo and I arrived. Fiona had set up at a corner table with ring lights and a professional camera setup. She was wearing a white dress that photographed beautifully and spoke in the breathy, vulnerable voice she used for her most manipulative content. Sometimes the people we love most are the ones who hurt us deepest, she was saying to her phone camera. I'm learning that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary for survival. The comments were streaming past faster than I could read them, but the general sentiment was clear. Fiona was brave and inspiring, and her unnamed husband was a monster. I can't share all the details, she continued, but I want other women to know that emotional abuse can look like many things. Sometimes it's not what someone does, it's what they take away. Leo grabbed my arm. Dude, she's good, like really good. If I didn't know the truth, I'd be ready to punch you myself. He wasn't wrong. Fiona was a master at this, taking real emotions and real situations and spinning them into a narrative that served her purposes. The tears in her eyes looked genuine. The pain in her voice sounded authentic. She was telling her truth, even if it bore no resemblance to actual truth. I'm going to focus on healing, she concluded, on surrounding myself with people who support my growth, and I want to thank everyone who's reached out with love and support. Your messages mean everything to me. She ended the live stream and immediately turned to Elliot, who had been sitting at the bar during her performance. He joined her at the table, and she melted into his arms like she'd been holding herself together through pure willpower. Okay, Leo said quietly. Now I'm pissed. Don't be. This is perfect. Perfect. She just painted you as an abuser to 10,000 people. She also just proved that everything I suspected was true. Look at them, Leo. Look at how comfortable they are together. This isn't a new relationship. They've been together for months. I took out my phone and started recording. Not for revenge, but for documentation. If this ended up in divorce court, I wanted evidence of Fiona's actual emotional state during her supposed time of healing from my alleged abuse. They were laughing now, sharing a bottle of champagne that probably cost more than most people's weekly groceries. Fiona kept checking her phone, reading comments from her live stream and showing Elliot the most supportive ones. She's actually enjoying this, Leo realized. The attention, the drama, the victim narrative, she's feeding off it. Narcissists always do, but here's the thing about public performances. They require an audience, and audiences can be unpredictable. I was already planning my next move. If Fiona wanted to play this out in public, I was happy to oblige. But she was about to learn that controlling the narrative was a lot harder when someone else had access to the same stage. The next morning brought a new surprise. Fiona had hired a lawyer. I knew because Patricia Chen called to inform me that she'd been contacted by opposing counsel and could no longer represent me due to conflict of interest. I'm sorry, Lucien. Fiona's attorney reached out yesterday afternoon. Since she contacted us first, we have to decline your case. Who did she hire? Davidson, Klein, and Associates. They specialize in high-profile divorces and media management. Expensive and ruthless. Fiona was playing for keeps. I spent my lunch break finding new legal representation. Marcus Webb from Webb & Partners agreed to see me that afternoon. His office was smaller than Davidson's operation, but his reputation was solid, and he specialized in cases involving social media and digital evidence. I've seen your wife's content, he said after reviewing my documentation. She's building a public case against you. The good news is that you've been meticulous about evidence collection. The bad news is that public opinion isn't a legal standard, and she's winning the public relations war. What do you recommend? Honestly? Stay quiet. Don't engage on social media. Don't respond to her accusations. Document everything, but don't react publicly. Let her dig her own hole while you build a factual case. It was good advice, smart advice. I ignored it completely. That evening, I created something I'd never had before, a public Instagram account. Username, @LucianSpeaksTruth. My first post was simple, a photo of the storage unit receipt, with a caption that read, "When someone asks for space, sometimes the kindest thing you can do is give them exactly what they asked for. Context matters, truth matters. Stay tuned." Within an hour, I had 500 followers. Within 3 hours, I had 2,000. Fiona's followers had found me, and they were not happy. The comments ranged from angry to threatening, but buried among the hate were a few voices of reason. People who were starting to ask questions about Fiona's version of events. My second post went up at midnight, a screenshot of Fiona's text message asking for a week to find herself, with the timestamp clearly visible. Caption: "This is what asking for space looks like. I respected her request and gave her the freedom she wanted. Why is honoring someone's boundaries now considered abuse?" This time, the response was more mixed. Some of Fiona's followers started asking uncomfortable questions in her comments. Others defended her more aggressively, but the narrative was beginning to shift. I was documenting everything when my phone rang. Unknown number. "You need to stop." Elliot's voice was exactly what I'd expected, deep, slightly dumb, and trying to sound intimidating. "Stop what?" "The social media thing. You're hurting Fiona." "I'm telling the truth. If that hurts Fiona, maybe she should examine why." "Look, man, I don't want any trouble, but you're messing with people's lives here." "Whose life am I messing with, Elliot? Yours? Because last I checked, you're the one sleeping with another man's wife." Silence. Then, "Fiona said you guys were separated." "When did she say that? Before or after she moved into a hotel while telling her followers she was being emotionally abused?" More silence. I could practically hear the gears turning in his head. She said you were controlling, manipulative. And yet she never mentioned being separated? Never mentioned having a boyfriend? Interesting. Look, man, I don't know what games you're playing, but I'm not playing games, Elliot. I'm a husband who discovered his wife was cheating and decided to give her the space she claimed to want. If that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you should ask yourself why. He hung up. 20 minutes later, Fiona called. What the hell do you think you're doing? Telling my side of the story. You said I needed to appreciate you more. I'm appreciating the truth. Take down those posts, Lucian. Right now. Or what? Or I'll destroy you. I have followers, influence, connections. I can make your life hell. You already tried that. It was called our marriage. This isn't a joke. You're ruining everything I've built. I'm not ruining anything, Fiona. I'm just providing context. If your followers are questioning your narrative, maybe your narrative has some problems. You don't understand what you're doing. My brand, my partnerships, my income, it all depends on my reputation. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to cheat on your husband and then paint him as an abuser when he didn't react the way you wanted. She was crying now, but they weren't the performative tears from her Instagram live. These sounded real, desperate. Please, Lucian, I'll come home. We can work this out. Just take down the posts. You don't want to come home, Fiona. You want to control the story. There's a difference. I made a mistake, okay? Elliot was just... I was lonely, and you were always working, and he made me feel special. You were lonely in a marriage where your husband gave you everything you asked for, so you decided to cheat and then gaslight me into believing I was the problem? It wasn't like that. What was it like? I don't know. I was confused, and Nadia said I deserved better, and Elliot was there, and it just happened. For 2 months? How did you... Never mind. Yes, for 2 months. But it's over now. I ended it tonight after you called him. You ended it because you got caught, not because you felt guilty. Does it matter why? I ended it. I want to come home. I looked around the apartment, clean, peaceful, free of the constant tension that had defined my life for the past year. The storage unit is paid through the end of the month, I said. Your stuff is safe. When you're ready to have an honest conversation about what happens next, let me know. But Fiona, the lies stop now, all of them. What about your posts? What about them? Are you going to keep exposing me? I'm going to keep telling the truth. If that exposes you, that's your choice. I hung up and immediately posted a screenshot of our call log, showing that she'd contacted me after claiming on social media that I was refusing to communicate. Caption: Interesting how someone who's being emotionally abused keeps calling their abuser. Almost like the real story is more complicated than a 30-second Instagram video. The response was immediate and intense. Fiona's followers were starting to turn on each other, with some defending her and others questioning her credibility. A few people shared their own stories of being falsely accused of abuse by manipulative partners. But the most interesting response came from someone I didn't expect. Marcy from the storage facility. She'd found my account and commented on the storage receipt photo. I remember you, such a nice young man. Your wife came by that night in quite a state, made a real mess of the unit. The security cameras got it all on tape if anyone needs proof of what really happened. That comment got over 1,000 likes and 500 replies. People were starting to ask for the security footage. Some of Fiona's followers were demanding she address the inconsistencies in her story. I went to bed that night with a strange sense of satisfaction. For the first time in years, I felt like I was controlling my own narrative instead of being a supporting character in someone else's drama. But I also knew this was just the beginning. Fiona wasn't going to give up easily, and neither was I. The question was who would blink first. I woke up to chaos. Fiona had posted a new Instagram live at 6 a.m., this time from the storage facility. She was standing in front of the unit, surrounded by her scattered belongings, tears streaming down her face. "This is what emotional abuse looks like," she was saying to the camera, "making someone feel so unsafe in their own home that they have to live out of a storage unit. This is what happens when you try to set boundaries with a narcissist." The comments were pouring in faster than I could read them, but the tone had shifted overnight. Mixed in with the supportive messages were increasingly skeptical voices. "Girl, didn't you say you needed space? He gave you space. Why are you at a hotel if you're living in a storage unit? This doesn't add up. Something's missing from this story. Can you explain why you called him if he's abusing you?" Fiona was trying to address the questions, but her answers were becoming more contradictory by the minute. She claimed I'd forced her to leave, then admitted she'd asked for time apart. She said I'd stolen her belongings, then acknowledged that everything was safely stored and accessible. My phone rang. Marcus Webb, my lawyer. "Lucian, what the hell is your wife doing? She's live streaming from a storage facility claiming you made her homeless?" "She's panicking. Her story is falling apart and she's trying to regain control of the narrative." "Well, it's working. My phone's been ringing all morning with reporters asking for comment. This thing has gone viral." He was right. Fiona's hashtag, "emotional abuse is real," was trending on Twitter, but so was context matters. People were sharing their own stories of false accusations, manipulative partners, and the importance of hearing both sides before rushing to judgment. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. "Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Let her keep talking. Every word she says is evidence for our case." But I had one more move to make. I drove to the storage facility and found Fiona exactly where I'd expected, still live streaming, now sitting on a box of her designer shoes, looking appropriately tragic for her audience. "Lucian!" She spotted me approaching and immediately turned the camera toward me. "Everyone, this is my husband, the one who did this to me." I walked directly to the camera and looked into it. "Hi, everyone. I'm Lucian Dre. I'm sorry you're all caught up in our personal drama, but since Fiona has made this public, I think you deserve to know the whole truth." "Don't you dare!" Fiona started. "3 days ago, my wife told me she was blocking me for a week, so I would learn to appreciate her more. Her exact words. She said she needed space to find herself. I respected that request and gave her the space she asked for." I pulled out my phone and showed Fiona's original text message to the camera. "This is what asking for space looks like. This is the message that started everything. I didn't kick her out. I honored her request for independence." The live comments were exploding. Fiona was frantically trying to end the stream, but I kept talking. "What Fiona hasn't told you is that she's been having an affair for 2 months. She's been staying at the Four Seasons Hotel, not living in a storage unit. She's been lying to you the same way she's been lying to me." "That's not true," Fiona screamed, but her face had gone pale. "Elliot Shaw, Peak Performance Gym. Your followers can verify this themselves if they want to. The truth has a way of coming out." I turned back to the camera. "I'm not perfect. No marriage is perfect. But I've never abused anyone, emotionally or otherwise. I've simply stopped enabling someone who was using manipulation and lies to avoid taking responsibility for her own choices." Fiona finally managed to end the stream, but the damage was done. The video had been watched by over 50,000 people, and screen recordings were already spreading across social media. "You bastard," she hissed. "You've ruined everything. I've told the truth. If that ruins everything, what does that say about the everything you built?" My followers trusted me. My sponsors trusted me. My whole career was built on authenticity. No, Fiona. Your career was built on a carefully crafted image that had nothing to do with who you actually are. The authenticity was always a lie. She slumped against the storage unit wall, looking smaller and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen her. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. "Now you decide who you want to be. The person who takes responsibility for her choices, or the person who keeps blaming everyone else for the consequences of those choices." And us? There is no us, Fiona. There hasn't been for a long time. We both know that. She nodded slowly, tears falling freely now. For the first time in years, they looked genuine. I'm sorry, she whispered, for all of it. The cheating, the lies, the way I treated you. You didn't deserve any of it. No, I didn't, but I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. I left her there with her belongings and her choices. As I drove away, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: complete peace. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. Fiona lost most of her sponsorship deals and had to rebuild her career from scratch. She moved to Portland and started over with a much smaller following and a more honest approach to social media. Elliot's gym went out of business after the scandal. Turns out, being known as the guy who helped break up a marriage wasn't great for attracting family-oriented clientele. Nadia found new clients, but her reputation in Seattle's PR community never fully recovered. As for me, I kept the apartment, started dating again, and learned to trust my instincts about people. I also learned that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to stop enabling their worst impulses and let them face the consequences of their choices. 6 months after our divorce was final, Fiona sent me a text. Thank you for not letting me get away with it. I'm in therapy now. I'm trying to become someone I can actually respect. I didn't respond, but I hoped she meant it. Some people deserve second chances. Some people deserve to learn from their mistakes and become better versions of themselves.